There is a different sort of urgency here, I think, this year, and maybe you could just talk about what really is at stake and how much you think might be real about what the Great Lakes might be facing as far as cuts.
Well, President Trump is going to propose his budget. Keep in mind that every president proposes. However, the Congress disposes. The Congress is the one that passes the budget. And I will say in regards to an issue like the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative that has been talked about having a huge amount of proposed budget cut, I would simply say that there is very, very widespread bipartisan support from Democrats and Republicans, not just in my state of Michigan, but every congressional delegation in each one of the 8 Great Lakes states. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of pushback, certainly from the congressional delegations in those Great Lakes states, and in other areas as well, because there are a number of stakeholders, affected stakeholders. We certainly have heard from many of them here today at the Great Lakes Commission annual meeting. And tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of visits to members of Congress's offices. I used to be on the receiving end of those, and now I'm going to be, as I say, in a different capacity, but still advocating for the Great Lakes. So I'm not totally as panicked as some of the others might be here about what is being proposed. I know how the process works. It takes a while, and just because the president proposes it, believe me, it's not a done deal.
One last thing, what is the biggest issue? And there's so many issues we discussed today, everything from toxic hotspots to the Sioux locks, to contaminants in the water, to algal blooms, to so many things, and invasive species. Is there one thing that stands out for you that is of biggest concern for you?
Well, you know, in my new capacity as a Public Works Commissioner, we are all talking about infrastructure and inadequate underground infrastructure in particular. And I think we all realize now that not having the right underground infrastructure has a very much an impact on our quality of life as well as our economic prosperity. So everybody's talking about infrastructure. All the governors are talking about infrastructure. The president's talking about infrastructure. The Congress is talking about infrastructure. And I think people are recognizing that we do have to invest in our infrastructure. In the state of Michigan, we've seen certainly what has happened in the city of Flint. In my county of Macomb County, we've had the biggest sinkhole and sewer collapse in the history of our state. So we're dealing with that right now. And look, that's a canary in the coal mine. It could happen anywhere. And all of this has an impact on the Great Lakes because you can start having all kinds of sewer discharges into the Great Lakes, or the water treatment plants are not where they need to be. And so I think infrastructure is something that is a very common theme. And one good thing about that, again, I think it in a time really of intense partisan bickering and gridlock and people being so polarized, I think the issue of infrastructure is something where there's common ground. And so I'm hopeful that that particular issue will be something that will bring both Republicans and Democrats together. And certainly here at the Great Lakes Commission, we discuss that pretty exhaustively.
If that 97% cut happens, does it specifically address removal of funds for infrastructure?
Well, if it happens, that it's used for a number of different kinds of projects. For instance, there's a couple of projects that I'm very familiar with because I helped get the GLRI money for projects that are happening down in Macomb County, and they are for wetland preservation, habitat restoration, those kinds of things, not so much with heavy infrastructure.